China promising to fight to the end with the United States after President Donald Trump threatened to almost double tariffs on Chinese imports to more than 100%. This follows China's retaliatory 34% levies on U.S. goods, which Washington has described as a big mistake. Mr. Trump has terminated talks and given China a one-day deadline to back down.
中国人不惹事，也不怕事。施压、威胁和讹诈不是同中方打交道的正确方式。中方必将采取必要措施，坚决维护自身正当合法权益。如果美方置两国和国际社会的利益于不顾，执意打关税战、贸易战，中方必将奉陪到底。
The European Union is seeking to cool tensions. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen has urged Chinese Premier Li Qiang against further escalation, stressing the vital importance of stability for the world's economy. The bloc says it could outline its own response to the new US levies as early as next week. And more, we're joined by CNA's Olivia Siong in Beijing and Nick Harper in Washington, D.C. Let's get to you first from Olivia. Olivia, we've heard there from China's foreign ministry spokesperson, China will fight to the end, but it also is limited by its need to address its own domestic concerns.
Wei Su, the message for now, though, is that China has the firepower and willpower to see through this trade war. The foreign ministry saying that it will take strong and resolute countermeasures, and that phrase that has been repeated throughout today, that it will fight to the end with the U.S., the signal being very clear that China is not going to back down, despite facing that ultimatum from President Trump to back off on its retaliatory tariffs and that call by the EU to act responsibly. We saw the Chinese readout of that phone call, not mentioning this remark by the EU chief, but only that both sides agreed to maintain free and open trade. So indications are that China is not going to budge, and analysts say could even hit back stronger. What could China do? Well, first, China is very mindful of not wanting to appear weak to its domestic audience. Also, more counter tariffs could be on the cards if the Trump administration chooses to make good on its threat. Analysts are saying that whether it's 34% tariffs, 54%, or even more than 100% tariffs, the fact is that trade is already going to be disrupted. And so now China showing this strong response to get the Trump administration to the negotiating table. And there are other levers that it could pull. We've seen export controls on critical minerals, agricultural products from the U.S. being hit, and all that could be used, putting more American companies on unreliable entities list. The question is whether talks between the both sides will happen and when it could possibly happen. Here's what one analyst I spoke to had to say.
The bilateral tariff war will have very bad, very deleterious consequences for both economies. Yeah, and I think at one stage, for example, when the U.S. Economy goes to a recession or China experiences a very significant slowdown, there will be more, let's say, political willingness to engage, to negotiate. Yeah, so I'm not sure who has the upper hand. Yeah, but I would say anyway, China is on the defensive side. Yeah, and if it can prove that its economy is very resilient, despite the very heavy tariff pressure, then it is probably going to come out on top.
Olivia, leaders and policymakers may, as that analyst suggested, be thinking of who has the upper hand in talks. But the pain is felt by the people on the ground. How have Chinese residents reacted to this trade row with the United States?
Well, topics related to the tariffs and China's retaliatory moves have been trending on Chinese social media, some expressing support for the strong action that China is taking, while others that our team have been speaking to say they are still a bit uncertain as to how things may pan out. And so reactions relatively mixed. Have a listen.
如果個徵收嘅個關稅如果再上漲嘅話，其實第一，我哋嘅終端客戶嘅價錢肯定會上漲嘅。
對我們普通老百姓來說，就是說，像昨天的那個股票的一個大震盪，就是說，你在這個資產的配置這一塊，本身我們就是要分散投資，不能把所有的股票都去 all in。
CNA's Beijing correspondent Olivia Siong has said
besides
to
the countermeasures, we have also.
Oh, please continue, Olivia. Pardon me.
Well, yes, as I was just mentioning there, besides the countermeasures from the U.S., another big part of the puzzle here from China's response are the interventions that we have seen overnight from the Chinese financial regulators, the central bank, major Chinese state-owned investment company, China Central Huijin, vowing to firmly support the capital market. Some Chinese-listed companies also rolling out share buyback and stake increase plans. Now, propping up the stock market and housing market has been key in China's strategy, as well as that affects what analysts are calling the wealth effect and the ability of Chinese to spend. Notably, also as China looks to boost domestic consumption as an economic growth driver as it faces external headwinds. Wei Su.
Oh, thanks. Olivia Siong there from Beijing. Nick Harper in Washington, D.C. Olivia, there are concerns in China. A stock market, slight recovery today, but there were big falls earlier. Are U.S. policymakers on the defense given falls as well on Wall Street? How have they been defending Mr. Trump's policies on tariffs?
Yeah, so it's very difficult because it's becoming clear that neither side, China nor the US, wants to back down. We seem to be heading towards, I guess, this zero-sum game where we could see retaliatory tariffs being placed on top of the other retaliatory tariffs. China has said that it will fight to the end. Donald Trump seems dead set on starting those additional 50% tariffs on Wednesday. We have heard from the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, in the last hour or so. He's been speaking on CNBC. He's said that he thinks it is a big mistake, the Chinese escalation. He says that they are playing with a losing hand. He also said that Donald Trump is committed to fixing the trade imbalances and also suggesting that when it comes to the European Union, the US could potentially impose a VAT tax on Europe. Bessent saying that everything is currently on the table. For the US consumers, though, they're looking at all of this, all of the turbulence, the turmoil, and wondering how it's going to hit their wallets. With the possibility of tariffs in excess of 100% on Chinese goods, we have seen Americans in some areas going on a spending spree. Apple, for example, has been reporting that they've seen higher than usual spending at this time of year, people trying to snap up iPhones, and plenty of anecdotal stories of people heading to the stores to try and stock up on items that they believe will increase in price. Things like groceries, coffee, avocados, fruit, soy sauce, some long-term consumables like toothpaste, also shoes, furniture, foreign alcohol, and of course electronics that are brought into the United States. People heading to grocery stores and supermarkets to try and get electronics. Things like TVs seem to be a big item at the moment that people are trying to pick up.
All right, fairly quotidian items there, but the well-heeled as well, America's business leaders also concerned about what they're seeing coming out of this new administration.
Well, yeah, they are. I mean, President Trump and his team, they are warning that there will be this temporary disruption, but they're continuing to maintain that it'll be short-term pain for long-term gain. Donald Trump has been trying to encourage Americans. On Monday, he wrote on social media that Americans need to be strong, courageous, and patient. He said their reward will be greatness. So the White House is trying to add some reassurance about a possible endgame. We've seen administration officials speaking to business groups. They're arranging private meetings, really trying to calm those concerns. The White House also talking about potential deals with key trading partners like Vietnam and Cambodia, Israel and Poland. The White House says that 50 countries in total have come forward to discuss deals with the US, and the administration is suggesting that there could be tax cuts coming for Americans to try and balance out the effects of the tariffs. But one big problem at the moment is we are still seeing mixed messaging from Donald Trump himself. It's unclear if the tariffs are a short-term negotiating tool or if they're permanent. When asked about that, he said that those both can be true. Just a quick look at US futures, all currently trading up at the moment. The Dow up by about 2.8%, the S&P up by about 2.4%, the Nasdaq up 2.3%. Could break their three-day losing stretch. Markets open in just under 90 minutes' time. Wei Su.
Thanks, Nick Harper, live from Washington, D.C., and Olivia Siong for us in Beijing.